Hello, everyone. My name is Ole Kagan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with LA County Library, and I welcome you to Microsoft PowerPoint for Beginners. Before we get going with today's event, I'm going to take care of some housekeeping, do the land acknowledgement, and tell you what we have coming up next with our Microsoft Office workshops. So if you can hear me and you can see me and you can see the slide on the screen, then you're good to go. However, if you're having trouble hearing me or seeing me, or seeing the slide on the screen, let me know in the chat and I will do my best to assist. If you'd like to listen to this presentation on the phone, you can do that by calling 1-669-900-6833 and using the access code 860-9065-3531 and the passcode 123123. Additionally, automated closed captioning is available on Zoom in case you'd like to read along with the presentation. To enable that, you would press the CC button in your Zoom window. Now, you may have noticed that the mics and video for attendees of this program are disabled. That's so that everyone can focus on our presenter. We do, however, welcome your questions and comments. Questions can go in the Q&A box. That's the one with the two speech bubbles, or the single speech bubble. And then comments can go in the chat. That's the one with the two speech bubbles. I'd also like to note that this class is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the YouTube link of the entire class, including the Q&A, in a follow-up email. All right, now let's move on to our land acknowledgement. The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native American peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, the Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, the Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians Quiche Nation, Yuhaviatam of San Manuel Nation, San Fernando Band of Mission Indians, Coastal Band of Chumash Nation, Gabrielino Tongva Nation, and Gabrielino Tongva Tribe. To learn more about the First Peoples of Los Angeles County, please visit the Los Angeles City County Native American Indian Commission website at lanic.lacounty.gov. All right. And let us move on to what we have coming up next for our Microsoft Office workshops. And that is advanced topics in Microsoft PowerPoint. That's going to be next week, next Wednesday, March 11th at 11 a.m., 3/11/11. And let me just make sure. Yep. I'm going to post that in the chat. That's going to give you some more information about getting the most out of Microsoft PowerPoint. For the most of the advanced classes that we've had, I would say that the audiences for the beginner classes and the advanced classes don't overlap. But I would say for Microsoft PowerPoint, even if you're a PowerPoint beginner, you will likely benefit from advanced topics in Microsoft PowerPoint. You'll be able to pull out a thing or two and be able to use it for your PowerPoint presentations. I just posted the link to registration in the chat, and you can go ahead and register for that. And if you can't make it, of course, you'll still receive a video link if you register. And if you're interested in other LA County Library events, you can find out more about them by going over to our website at lacountylibrary.org. And for virtual events, you hover over that events button at the very top, get a drop down that says virtual programs, click on that. That gives you all of our Zoom events like this one for all ages. And if you're interested in all the events, virtual and in person, and there are quite a few, since we have 85 open library locations, you can just go to that same events button, click on events, get our entire calendar. Events for kids, teens, adults, older adults, everything absolutely free and available to you. All right, and now it's time to get going with Microsoft PowerPoint for Beginners. And to present this program to you, we have our adult literacy assistant, Veronica Vargas. Veronica, the stage is yours.
Hello, and thank you, Alec, for the presentation and all the information. So for today, I'm going to be going over 3 projects using Microsoft PowerPoint for beginners. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And sorry about that. Okay, so a PowerPoint presentation consists of one or more slides that contain text, graphic, animation videos, as well as other useful data. And for today's demonstration, I'm going to be covering some tips on how you can make a short form of presentation, how to make a photo slideshow, and finally how to build a simple deck of flashcards for studying using PowerPoint. So there are multiple ways that you can use with each project, but for today I'm going to be covering basic ways that you can generate each project in a simple and hopefully easy to follow format. So before I begin going over the steps on how to generate a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to slowly browse through a PowerPoint presentation that I previously made. I do want to emphasize that this is not the actual presentation mode. This is just how your screen will look like when you have the PowerPoint application open. So with PowerPoint, there are certain guidelines which are called the 555 rule. These rules are used to help keep the slides concise and engaging. So rule number 1 is that each slide should consist of no more than 5 words per line. Our goal is to write short, impactful phrases instead of full sentences. We want to create memory joggers to trigger your spoken points. Number 2 is that no more than 5 lines per slide, which means that we should try and limit the amount of text we put on each slide to prevent the audience from being forced to choose between listening to the speaker versus reading what is on the screen. And finally, number 3, no more than 5 text-heavy slides in a row. While this does not apply to every slide, it is still a good practice to avoid having too many consecutive slides with a lot of text, since our goal is to mix visual slides with images, graphics, or charts so that we can break up the text-heavy slides and maintain engagement. Following these steps will allow the audience to stay focused and encourage a natural flow, as well as promote visual storytelling. So this is what my presentation looks like. Before I keep going with the presentation, I am going to quickly demonstrate a cool shortcut that you can use, which is the F5 key, which is located at the top of your keyboard. And when we hit that key, it automatically launches us into presentation mode. So this would basically be it. This is not my normal presentation mode. I think I had my settings wrong, but that's just a quick demonstration on how you can launch into presentation mode. And now that we demonstrated that, I'm going to quickly go over some important things that you need to know when you're working with PowerPoint. So the first most important function within this application is the ribbon toolbar, which is the area right here. Um, Before I go on, I also want to mention that you are going to be provided with a list of Microsoft key shortcuts. The first few pages are taken directly from the Microsoft Help page, and it consists of Microsoft key shortcuts that you can use while working with PowerPoint. This document is going to be emailed to you with all the other files. So one of the easiest ones that I like to use for the shortcuts is the Control plus the C button. which is a shortcut command that when you hit this, it's going to undo any action you have done. Another option to do this is the quick access toolbar, which is the area up here on the top left corner. So if you were to hit the left arrow, that will undo, which is essential of the Control C, and the second right arrow is for repeat. And you can also select Control plus Y, and as you can see, it shows the little shortcut there function. So if at any point while I'm presenting the how to generate the presentation, you don't see me physically click on anything and you see things appear or disappear, it's most likely that I'm using these shortcuts. So each word in the ribbon toolbar is called a tab, and each tab has a separate set of tools and functions that are specific to each individual tab. Inside of each tab, there's a subsection within the areas, and these are called groups. And each group is divided by smaller sections. All the icons within each section will provide you with a variety of options that you can use to customize your slides. In addition to the tabs that are currently being displayed, there are some extra tabs that will generate with specific functions. For instance, at the moment, you don't see anything that shows for picture formatting, but let's say I go ahead and click on a picture, you're going to see that picture format is now popping up on my ribbon toolbar. So this tab is only going to be activated when I am clicking on an image. So if I was to click outside of the image, it's going to disappear. So another important feature with PowerPoint is the slides pane, which is located on the left-hand side, which is the area right here. And from here, you can see a small thumbnail icon display of what your slides will look like. Within this section, you can easily navigate to other slides. For example, let's say I wanted to make an adjustment to one of the ending slides. Instead of manually having to scroll by each one, I can use the scroll bar to go all the way to the bottom and just physically click on slide 16, and now it's ready to start getting edited. Okay, so now I'm going to go over a few more icons that are also useful when you're working with PowerPoint. So if you look at the bottom right corner of your screen, the area right here is called the view area. So the first icon on here is our notes pane. So this area is dedicated space beneath the main slide where you can add notes, important facts, or even private reminders that can only be viewed by the presenter when you are in presentation mode. So this field can be hidden by simply clicking on the notes button in the status bar, and it'll show you either whether you have notes or not. And you can just click on it to activate it or deactivate it. So the second icon is called our normal view. So this icon, we can alternate between seeing what is considered our default view when we clicked, and it can also switch to how the slides are displayed. And then as well as it gives you an outline of what is consistent inside of your slide. So it gives you a little breakdown of what each slide contains with the words. Okay. So the next button icon is called the slide sorter view, which is the one right here. So when we select this icon, we can now see a visual overview of what all our slides will look like. It will be displayed as a series of small thumbnails. This area is the best place to reorganize your slide order, and you can simply do this by selecting and dragging the slides around. So let's say I wanted to move this up, you could just click it and move it up manually to another area. But I wanted to keep it there. Okay. And so the viewpoint is also very important when you are adding animations or transitions to the slides. That way you can preview them. But I'm not going to be covering this topic because these are considered more advanced PowerPoint techniques. And finally, the reading view panel, which is a little icon that looks like an open book, which is right here. So when we click on this icon, you can preview as well as navigate the presentation within an enlarged view that will be less distracting since the ribbon toolbar is not present under this view. From here, you would also be able to test out any customizations that you've implemented. So when in the reading view mode, you can use the left and right arrows to scroll between your slides. As well, you can also use the center panel to open additional features, which is right here. So this feature is located within both of the arrow icons. Those are the arrow icons right here. So another tool that we can use within the reading view submenu is the magnify slide tool, which is this one right here. So when we click on this tool, you will see a large rectangle shape with the magnifying glass icon with the small plus sign, and it's going to appear once you have it activated. This tool is a great feature to use to draw the audience's attention to a specific detail within our slide. So let's say I want to zoom in right there. And to get out of this setting, we can simply use the escape button from your keyboard, which is the button located at the top right corner, and it'll go back to our regular view. You also have the option to end the slideshow within this center panel. And to do this, we can click on the menu again, and then click where it says end show. And it's going to revert back to our original viewpoint before we went into the reading view mode. And now that we are in our normal view, the last icon is called the slideshow view. So it's this one right here. So this is a quick way to launch the presentation into full screen mode. However, the only issue with using this launching feature for presentation is that it will start playing from whatever slide you currently have selected instead of beginning from the first slide. But since I was on the first icon, it automatically launched me to the beginning. And before I go on, let me quickly show you an example of what to do when working with bullet points on your slides. So if we go to our normal view, and let's go to slide 6 and 7 and 8. As you can see, my bullet points are all different. I did this so that I could demonstrate this example. So one thing to keep in mind is that you want to keep the bullet points the same throughout each slide. Making them different is a big no-no. We want to make sure that we use the same style bullet points throughout the presentation. That way you can customize, the way that you can customize the bullet points is if we go onto our home icon on the ribbon toolbar, and if we're going to be working within the paragraph group setting, which is the area right here, let me click on here, that way you can see it activated. Uh, okay, so we select the drop-down menu uh, right here. You will see different options for the different style of bullet points that you can choose from. And when we are generating a PowerPoint presentation, you should try at minimum to have a title page, a table of contents slide, and a few slides that will be composed of your main body of work, sometimes the conclusion slide if possible, and a Q&A slide is also a good placeholder to use where you can linger while you answer any questions about the work once the presentation is complete. And finally, you can also include a closing slide where you can put a thank you for participating in the presentation. I did not include one in mine, but that is sometimes a good way to end a PowerPoint presentation. So now that I have explained some useful features for PowerPoint, let's begin working on our sample. So one cool shortcut you can use to launch a new PowerPoint is that if you already have the PowerPoint application open and running like we do, you can simply select the Control button and the N key, and this will essentially launch us into a new presentation mode. But let me go ahead and close this because I want to demonstrate a visual way to do this. So what we can do is we're going to go ahead and click on our File tab, which is located on the top right corner of the ribbon toolbar. When we're in this tab, this is how a newly opened PowerPoint looks like, and this is how it would look like if you were to have launched the application by using your PowerPoint icon, whether it would be on your desktop, your source menu, or wherever else it may be located. From here, you can choose to either start a new presentation by clicking on the new icon, which is right here, or you can also select the blank presentation icon, which is right here. Either one of these icons will launch the new presentation mode, and you also have the option to open a previously saved file. So if we select our open folder, you're going to see that it has recent tabs of any recent projects that I've worked on, as well as the last time that they were accessed or modified. So now let's go ahead and go to new and select the brand presentation icon. So to launch a new presentation, you have two methods you can use. The first one is you can simply click on the blank tile to launch a new project, or you can also use the right click button on your mouse over the blank presentation. And once you do that, it will generate the create icon. And then we just click on that and it'll also generate a new presentation. So as you can see, as soon as we start a new presentation, the first slide that is generated is what is called our title slide. This slide is composed of two types of text placeholders. As you can see, we have two types of rectangular shapes with the dotted outer borderline. This area is specifically designed for holding text. There is another type of placeholder that you can use to add different objects like pictures, icons, video clips, tables, or graphs, and I'm going to demonstrate this in the next few slides. So the top placeholder is the area where we put the title of our presentation. So if you can see that when I position the mouse over icon within the text box placeholder, you can see that our mouse cursor will change from the yellow arrow to the I beam. This means that once we click anywhere within the box, you will see that the displayed text will disappear and now a blinking I-beam will appear. The flashing I-beam means that we are ready to start typing our text. So for my title, I'm going to be using Monsters Fiction versus Film. One thing to remember is that you should try and capitalize every first letter of the word that you use within the title. So now that I've entered my text, it looks a little bit dull, so I want to quickly demonstrate how we can adjust the font style, color, and size using the font grouping located within the Home tab. So let's go to our Home tab, and this is the font group setting. So in order for any changes to occur to our font title, we need to have the text formatting options either pre-selecting prior to typing our words. As you can see, if I was to say I wanted bold, underline, red, I'm selecting all these features, but nothing is happening to my text. This is because I'm I did this after I typed it out. So what you have to do is select your I'm sorry. As you can see, nothing changed on our title when I selected the bold, italicized, or underlined icons. That's because I did not preemptively select the typographical emphasis tools. Those are what these are called. They're called typographical emphasis tools. So now if I want to add the changes to my typed font, what we need to do is highlight the text and it will highlight because that was the first feature, but we can also highlight it to drag it. Sorry, that's throwing me off. No color. That. Sorry about that. I don't know why that's coming out. Type it again. I'm sorry about that. Not sure. Okay. So if we were to highlight our text now, once we highlight it properly, it will be, you'll see that it will have a gray outer box. That means anything that we add to our customization is now ready to change. So now, okay, so once the text is highlighted, you're going to see the gray outer box around the text. Once the text is highlighted, any changes that we select will start generating. So now let's go back to our original text. And as I mentioned, I used the Control C to undo the changes. And actually, I did want to keep my text bold. So let me go ahead and hit bold again. You can also use Control B. That's another shortcut that you can use to making your text bold. And let's see. And then Control I will italicize. That's also another shortcut. And Control U will underline it. But we don't want to do that for ours, so I'm going to undo those features. And now I want my text size to increase. So to do this, we have a few options. You can either manually select a number using the drop-down menu from the font group setting, or you can also manually enter a number. So let's say we want it at 75. So uh, the other method that you can use is the small a with a little up arrow or down arrow. So A will increase and the A with the up arrow will increase and the A with the down arrow will decrease. But as you can see, it will only increase within the size of the box. So if we wanted to make a bigger size font, we would have to increase our text box. And that will allow us to grow the font a little bit bigger. It's only within that space though. Okay, so now that we've made it a little bit bigger, I want to quickly cover the alignment group, which is under the paragraph group setting. So there is right alignment, center alignment, and also left alignment. So for titles, usually they tend to be centered. So we're going to go ahead and leave it center alignment. Okay. And now I also want to change my font color. So to do this, we need to find the letter A icon with the red line beneath it, which is right here. This is the icon that we use to change the font color. We can choose different colors from the drop-down menu and choose from a variety of the different theme colors. You also have the option to generate your own color as well, but the one I want to use for mine is purple. So finally, I want to change my text font to Arial rounded. So one thing to keep in mind when building your presentation is to use the same font type throughout the project. So now let me go ahead and do that. And you can also, for the font, manually scroll to select the font that you want, or you can also start typing it and it will give you the option. We want it rounded. And now for our subtitle section. The subtitle section is usually the place where you can provide a more detailed description of what the slide content will be. So when it comes to school projects or work presentations, this would be the section where you can put down your name, job title, and date. So let's go ahead and do that. So my name is, I will put by Veronica Vargas, library assistant, and today's date is March. Okay, so the slide still looks a little plain, so let me go ahead and adjust my font as well. Change the color and we'll put it like that as well. And now let me go ahead and add a few icons. So to do this, what we can do is go to our Insert tab under the Illustration Group setting. You can select the image of a bird with the leaf, which is this one right here. This is our icons button. So if we click on it, the search option box will populate our screen and will give us many different styles of icons to choose from. We can browse through the various icons, but we also have the option to search for any icon using keywords. So let's say I'm going to use the keyword monsters. There we type that out, and we'll see that it'll generate a few different monsters. So I'm going to go ahead and choose two monsters, this one and this one. Once they're ready to be inserted, you'll see that the insert button will have a number of however many icons you selected. So if I have to select 3, it'll grow to 3, 4, however many. But we only want 2. And once it's ready to enter, we just hit insert and it'll populate on our tab. Okay. So as you can see, if we were to try and move them, they're moving together because they were entered at the same time. So, and they also appear to be locked together. So a simple solution to be able to move them is just click outside of either of the icon. That way they're unselected. And once you do this, you have control over selecting them individually and you'll be able to move them across from each side. And now, I want to show you how to resize the object. So once we have our object selected, I'm sorry, there you go. once we have our object selected, you will see that there's 8 white dots around it. These are called sizing handles or resize handles. So the corner dots are the best ones to use when you're resizing an object because it allows you to resize your object proportionally. So the top and bottom, as well as the side dots, can also resize our object, but it will be non-proportionally, meaning it will either shrink our object or stretch it. So let's go ahead and undo that. Okay. And then you also have the option when you're clicking around your icon to use the replace your icon button. This will generate whenever you have your icon selected. So when we click on here, it'll give us a few different options that can change automatically, or you can also and select see all icons, and this will open the icon search box again, and we can change our icon. And let's say we wanted to choose something new, it'll change it from the monster to an alien, but we don't want that. So let's go ahead and undo that. And um, so as you can see, whenever we are choosing our slides, when we click on the drop-down menu, we don't want to just cancel. As you can see, when we're choosing our slides, when we click on the drop-down menu from right here, this is a new slide icon. When we click on there, you can see that there's 9 different styles to choose from. So after our title slide, the next slide is going to be the title and content slide. So this slide will allow us to add a title, and as you can see, the bottom content placeholder has a few icons within each box. This is the one I mentioned that has the shortcuts. All the icons here are the same as the ones you can find within the ribbon toolbar. So this placeholder is designed in a way where you do not have to go to the ribbon toolbar looking through the various tabs to find the tools you need to add that to the slide. So you have the option, as I mentioned earlier, to add pictures. This is a smart art graphic, video, a table, or even a chart. Mm, So you also have the option to just start typing text. So what we want this to be is our table of contents slide. So I'm going to call it table of contents. As you can see, our font didn't generate the color or change, but we can easily highlight it and do the changes. Okay. And if we select the okay, so now for the bottom placeholder section, I'm gonna put in this section my list. So regularly you would be listing what content of what your PowerPoint slide is going to consist of, but to keep this brief, I'm just gonna type in uh, 2 words: author biographies and the monsters. So as you can see, my text didn't change. So another quick shortcut is you can use the Control plus A button and it'll select all of our text. And then we just manually do the changes really quick. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start making our next slide. Another way to insert a new slide is if we go to the Insert tab under the New Slide drop-down menu. You also have the option to choose from the 9 different tile options. So our next slide that we're going to be using is the comparison slide, which is right here. So typically this slide is good for making comparisons, but it can also be aesthetically appealing because it allows us to not only put our title, but we have a subsection. If we were to generate 2 lists and we can add a title above each section with tile within our object area. So for this one, my title will be the authors of famous monsters. So let's do our text. Okay. So above both placeholders, I'm going to put the word authors on one side. So for the alignment, you can also use the shortcut Control E, and it'll also center our alignment. So let's go ahead and put authors here. And on this one, we're going to manually do it, and then we're going to put monsters. Okay, so now that we have my left and right title, I'm going to go ahead and put 3 authors under my authors box. I'm going to put Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, and H.P. Lovecraft. And then for our 3 monsters, we're going to go ahead and put Count Dracula, Frankenstein, and Herbert West. Okay, so now for my next slide. Actually, let's go ahead and adjust our fonts. Keep it bold. I'm not gonna keep it bold this time. And I want to. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now. Okay, so now for my next slide, I'm gonna go use a title only slide. Uh, because I want my slide to be an introduction to what the next body of content will be. So for this one, as you can see, when we generate this tile, it automatically puts our title section at the top of the slide, but we want it towards the middle of the slide. So let's go ahead and center that to be in the middle and type in the authors. For this font, I actually want to change it a little bit from my other ones. I really like how the font Viva Beautiful is, but for it to be more visually appealing, um, it's a little small, so I'm going to go ahead and enlarge it. And let's enlarge our box, that way we have more space to work with. And okay, let's make, and you can adjust accordingly. And now our next slide is now going to be the to content slide. So let's go ahead and go to the to content slide. This slide will allow me to add a title as well as to add 2 different types of content within both placeholders. So for this title, I'm going to go ahead and put the authors of monsters in fiction. And under our left box, I want to add an image of Abraham Stoker, but I want to do this by using the icons within the placeholder. So I'm going to go ahead and select the image icon. And when we do this, oh, so as you can see, if you briefly pass the mouse icon over the various icons, you can see a little explanation on what each icon does. So again, let's go ahead and click on the insert picture. And when we do this, it will give us a little box. Okay, sorry. This is just one way to add images into our slide. I'm going to demonstrate other methods in a bit. To add the image, we first click on the side on the icon, and this will open the insert picture search box. From here, the next step we need to do is locate the folder that we're going to be using to select our images from. So I'm going to go ahead and choose from device, um, because this is my images were inside of my folders. Um, so once we do this, what we need to do is now find our folder that contains our images we want to exert. Um, it helps also to know where your images are stored because it'll make adding them a lot easier. So one tip to know where your images are stored is to have that done before you're even going to start working on your presentation mode. That way it makes adding the pictures a lot faster. So I have mine on my downloads folder under images. This one. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so as you can see, it has all my images, but you can't see what they look like. I did this setting on purpose. That way I could demonstrate another way that you can view what your images are. That way you're not blindly choosing something. I know you can have the names on them, but it is good to see them. So what we can do is go with the right click menu to view. And we can make them large icons. That way we can see what they look like. You can also make them extra large so you can see them a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's be settings. Okay, so we were gonna use Bram Stoker and insert. Okay. So when we use the content placeholder to add our image, it will automatically resize the image to fit within the content placeholder. So as you can see, this made our image a bit small and it looks a little plain. So I want to quickly demonstrate a simple way to customize the images. First, we begin by clicking on our image so that we can see the picture format tab icon on our ribbon toolbar. And you can see that there are a few group settings that we can work with. So if we go towards the center of the ribbon toolbar, under picture styles, if you click on the arrow drop-down menu, you can see a variety of what are called quick styles to choose from. This is a series of different styles and preset shapes to add to your image. Like for example, if you wanted to add a frame oval shape or a thick border, and there are at least 28 different styles to choose from. So let me do. Okay, so now let me quickly add some facts on my second place folder. So remember the 555 rule. We're going to be using 5 facts in short statements. So first I'm going to go ahead and type born on November 8th, 1947. Next, he died on April. Oh, and I spelled November wrong. As you can see, when it's spelled wrong, it'll give you the red underlining. And if you right click on there, it'll give you the options for the different spellings, and that'll be the correct one. April 20, 1947, and also known as Bram Stoker. And he was an Irish novelist. Sorry, Irish novelist, and he created Count Dracula. And there are 5 facts. So now let me quickly add his name to the top of the placeholder above the boxes. So let me resize this by moving this down and repositioning the placeholder. And now that I've cleared up some space, I can insert a text box. So to do this, we need to go to our Insert tab on the ribbon toolbar. Under the text group setting on the left side of the ribbon toolbar, if we select the text box icon, when this is selected, our mouse icon will change into what looks like a upside down T. This means we are ready to start generating our text box. To use this icon, simply click on one side and drag it to the opposite side. You can control how big or small you want it to be. And now that we have our text box, let's go ahead and enter the word Abraham Stoker. And let's go ahead and highlight on the text. I want it centered, purple, bold, and what's the area around it? And let's make it a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna increase the size. It's not working. Okay, so it's gonna be have to manually change it. Okay, and there you go. Okay, so now before I will go on, I want to show you a few more things that we can do with our images. So let's go ahead and click on our image again once more. And once the picture format tab pops up again, if we go under the adjust group setting, which is on the left-hand side, we have a few icons with drop-down menus where we can choose from a variety of options. So the first thing I want to demonstrate is how to change the color of our image. So we can choose between color saturation, color tone, or even recolor for the image. So let me make mine purple. The first thing I want to experiment with is changing the color, so I'm going to make my picture purple. So now the second icon is called Artistic Effects. This will visually transform the image and can make it resemble either a drawing, a painting, as well as other artistic styles to choose from. Did it take effect? I don't know. Okay. And finally, the transparency setting will allow us to control the opacity of the image. So you can choose, oh, sorry. Yeah, you can change the image by selecting the icon next to artistic effect. This one right here. This is the change your icon button. This will give you a drop-down menu and you can choose where you want to insert the image from. So if I were to do this, it would physically change the image you're working with. So let's go ahead and get out of here. So you also have the option to undo what changes you've made to your picture by using the reset picture icon, which is this one right here, and it'll undo any of the changes that you've made. So now I quickly want to demonstrate another way of adding an image, which is using the drag and drop style. So let me go ahead and open my folder and find where I had my images. Okay, so let's change the setting again. And we want to add this one. So as you can see, I don't have any space to add it to. This is because my folder box is really big. So we can resize our folder. That way we have more space to work with. And we can simply click on our image. Once we have our image selected, you'll see that it has a gray outer box around it. That means it's ready to be added. So what we can do now is drag it and drop it on our slide. Okay, and as you can see, when I dragged and dropped it, there was a little ghost shape that appears once you're dragging the image. This shows it's ready to be dropped. And so our image is a little big, so what I want to do now is demonstrate how you can crop out excess area. So let me quickly demonstrate how to adjust the size. So what we need to do again is go to the picture format, and under the size group settings, which is the area right here, you have the image automatically resize using the length and width numbers. So it'll automatically resize it proportionally. You also have the option to enter and enter a number manually. So let's say I want it have it at 3 inches. It'll automatically scale it down. And now it's a little small, so let me make it 5 instead. Okay. And now I want to demonstrate how to use the crop feature. So uh, under the crop feature, you have different options to choose from. You can manually crop or crop to shape. So if you select cropped, once you select the crop image, you'll see that there's black brackets around the image. This means that wherever you position the brackets, whatever is outside of the brackets will be cropped out. So let's say um, you have to also make sure that you are selecting the brackets and not the outer white uh, circles. As you can see, if the outer white circles are activated, it has like a little arrow versus this shape right here. This means it's the cropping one. And when you do that, it will put a darker area to what's going to be cropped out. And once we click outside of our image, it'll crop everything that we had selected outside of it. And if you go back to the cropping feature, it'll generate again. So you have the option to undo whatever you cropped out. before. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate how you can crop to shape. So if you go into crop to shape, you have different shapes to choose from. Since we're working with a rectangular image, I want to add a circle crop just so you can see what will happen. And what it does, it'll give you a circle within the rectangle shape. So it'll give us the oval crop. And I like how the style looks. So let's just make it smaller, put it right there. Okay, so now that we finished adding our images, I want to add some color to our background. To do this, simply use the right-click mouse on our first slide. So we're going to click on our first slide with the right mouse. Once we have the drop-down menu, you can see various features, and the one we're looking for is format background. So when we choose this, we have different options to choose from. So let's say we wanted to add a solid color. So if we do solid fill, if we go under color, we have the option to choose any of the colors. So let's say I want to make mine black. But once I do that, it loses some of my background features because black is a little bit too dark. And because my icons were black, it masked what was on the slide. So one thing to keep in mind is when you are choosing the background color is to make sure that the font will be legible and that it will not strain the viewer's eyesight. You can also adjust the transparency. So as you can see, there's a percentage bar right here, and depending on how high or low you go, you can basically make it 100% transparency and it'll go back to white, or if you keep it around the middle, it'll be like a light shade of gray, which will make our icons pop up as well. So you also have the option to choose between gradient fill, and with this, it's a visual effect that will create a smooth, gradual blend between two or more colors. You can also control different aspects with using these buttons. And then there's also the picture or texture fill. This will allow you to add texture. Let's say I want to keep ours blue. Okay. And as you can see, only my first slide took the background changes, but you can simply click on the, sorry, where is it? Apply to all, and then all my slides will generate the same background color. So now I want to quickly cover changing the order of slides. So to do this, we can simply close this box out and we can simply drag the slides within the slides pane. So like, let's say we wanted to move this down or up. It's almost the same as if we were in the slideshow shorter view mode. And you have the option to use either one. And finally, for playing the presentation, so I've already explained how you can launch into presentation mode uh, using the F5 key. And this is a different method that you can use to launch it. So if we go to the slideshow tab, under Start Slideshow, Group Setting, you can choose Start Slideshow from Beginning and versus from Current Slide. So if I was to select from Current Slide, it's going to go to Table of Contents since that was the one I had selected. But if you go from Beginning, regardless of whatever slide you're currently on, it will start from the start, from the beginning. Okay, so this current slide view is also a useful feature to do, like if you're using different transitions, that way you can see a preview of how that transition would be working. And once you're in the presentation mode, one easy way to get out of here is to just hit the escape key, which is located on the top left corner of your keyboard. Okay, so now I want to quickly uh, go over how to make a photo slideshow. So the earlier presentation you just saw is one of the many ways you could use for PowerPoint, but there are other cool things you could do with PowerPoint. For example, a photo slideshow. So uh, PowerPoint has a very simple and easy way to add images in one swift move, but before I demonstrate this, I want to quickly show you a photo slideshow that I previously generated. Since I've already demonstrated a few methods of adding images with our first project, I want to quickly cover two other features for adding images that I did not cover earlier. This can be done by using the drop-down menu, using the picture icons located within the images group of the Insert tab in the ribbon bar. So let me go ahead and quickly demonstrate this. So insert. So when you select the pictures icon box, if you were to select stock images, a pop out menu with a variety of different images that are associated with Microsoft 365 will be displayed. And let me you can see that there's icons, cutouts, stickers, videos, different options to choose from. So let's go ahead and close this out and go to online pictures. So when you open that one, you get a wider selection of images to choose from that are powered by Bing. This means that the search technology and algorithms used to retrieve the search results are part of Microsoft products and services. So let's go ahead and type out the word Axolot. Okay. And once we hit enter, you can see that it gives us a few different images to choose from. But since I've already had my pictures that I wanted to previously use, I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel to close out this box. You also have the option to use the X button, and either one will close out this menu. So let's go ahead and start working on our photo slideshow. So let's go ahead and launch a new project by going to the File tab on the ribbon bar and selecting New Presentation. And the first thing we need to do is change our slide layout. So we're going to go ahead and go to under the Home tab. We're going to go to the slide group setting, select the slide layout, drop down icon, and this will allow us to switch our layout to a blank tile. That way we have a blank canvas to work with. So if we go under the Insert tab, if we click under the Pictures drop-down menu, under Insert Pictures From, if we select from this device, which is what we want to do because this is where our images are selected, it'll give us the insert picture menu box. From here, we need to locate the folder that contains all the images that we want to add to our slides. So as I mentioned, I previously have my downloads folder, and it instantly opened to my last folder that I had used. So you can either manually go back to find your folder again, or you can also, and then let's go ahead and go this one. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and insert our first picture, which was the axolotl. And once to insert it, we simply need to click on the image. When selected, hit the insert icon, and the image will be added to our slide. So as you can see, the image is a bit large for our slide space. And while yes, we can adjust the size accordingly, it's going to be time consuming to have to manually adjust each image, reposition them to be centered, as well as other nuances that comes with generating the slides. So now that I'm looking at my slide, I also wanted to add a title to my slide. So let's go ahead and change from the blank template, and let's make it title only. That way we'll be able to add a title. And so see, as you can see, it's a little time consuming having to do all these adjustments to try and make it fit and then add the title. So let me quickly demonstrate a very simple and easy method for generating the photo slideshow. So to do this, let's go ahead and undo everything that we've entered. And now that we have our blank slide again, let's start the demonstration. So similar to how we add images, first we go to the Insert tab. Under the Images group, we go ahead and select the drop-down menu. I'm sorry, under drop-down menu under Photo Album. And we're going to go ahead and select New Photo Album. So this will have the photo album search field box appear. So now we can go ahead and select the file disk icon, which is located under the Insert Picture From. This will open the Insert New Picture menus. From here, you need to either search for the images by entering the name of the file in the search field, which would be right here. But unfortunately, this will only locate whatever files are within whatever folder is currently open. Microsoft programs will often default to the last folder you used to insert images from. So because we've already inserted from here, it has our pictures already there. So what we can do now is select all the pictures that we want to work with. So we could do Control A and it'll insert everything on there. Okay. So once you insert everything on there, as you can see, uh, it'll populate everything inside of our pictures and album box. This has all the pictures that will be added to our demonstration. So let's say I'm not happy in the order of that the images are pending to be added. So you have the option to reposition them by clicking on them and selecting it, and then you can move it down, or you can also remove it. And let's see, I want to put this one up. I want that to be my next one. And then I wanted to get rid of these. And that one, remove. So it's just small customizations that you could do beforehand. That way everything will be generated instantly. And let's see. You also have the option to delete. Yeah. So if you click on the images here, you can see on the preview box uh, a preview of what the images will look like. And if you look under picture options, which is the area right here, you have two boxes, which is captions below all pictures and all pictures black and white. Neither ones are checked off currently, but if we were to select these options, it would generate the slide by either making the images black and white or adding a space to insert captions beneath the image. However, the captions below all pictures will only work if you have smaller images. As you can see with our first image, they were a little bit big. So because of that, it's only going to generate an image per slide, so we would not be able to use this feature. But there is one thing that you can use. If you go under album layout, you also have the picture layout where you can do fit to slide, have one picture, and as you can see down in this area, it'll customize what it looks like. You can do two pictures, and as you can see, now that we've made the picture smaller, it allows us to put the captions below all pictures. But let's say we want one picture with title. That way we'll have picture beneath that. So if we look under the picture layout, there's different sections to choose from. And okay. And then we also have frame shape. So you have the option between several different styles to choose from. And you could do a rounded rectangle, a simple frame black, and it'll just basically add that border to your image once it generates the slides. And for themes, Microsoft comes with a few pre-generated themes, but I'm not going to be covering this feature because I don't know how to undo a setting once you've selected a theme. But it does have some themes that are already pre-generated, and you can experiment that on your own time. So now that we finished customizing our settings, we can go ahead and hit create, and it'll automatically add all of our images. And then for the title, we can just start manually inserting what it is. So do anglerfish and so forth. And let's go ahead and change our title to Nightmare Animals. And as you can see, let me adjust my font style. And the one I was going to use was Gaudi because I like how it looks. Oh, I guess it doesn't work on here. It's okay. Okay. And let me forgot. Let me put okay. So once you've generated your slides, you can also make edits to the customizations from the album. So if we go back to our insert tab under the photo album, we could select edit photo album. And from here, we could do changes. So let's say I want to demonstrate all pictures black and captions below pictures. So if we put update, it will make all of our pictures black and white, and it will also, the caption will be the file name. So you can manually adjust it, and you have the option to not have the title on there as well if you want to keep it that way. And now that's just one quick way to generate pictures, slideshow. And now I'm going to quickly demonstrate how to do a deck of flashcards for studying. So before you start working on this type of project, the first thing you need to do is gather all your materials that you're going to be using to generate the flashcards, whether it be definitions, key terms, or whatever uh, words you're going to be using or studying. So one important thing to keep in mind is that you need to make sure that you have the correct answers when you're generating the flashcards. It's best practice to keep the font similar style throughout all your slides, as well as to try and keep the size of the font as consistent as possible. That way your eyes will get adjusted to reading the prompts and not get distracted by too many things happening on the screen. So as you can see on my slides pane, it only looks like I have a bunch of green slides with white words on them and nothing else. But similar to using an index card as a flashcard, the front side would be our question side and the back side would be our answer slide. So let's go ahead and launch our presentation, our PowerPoint into presentation mode so I can demonstrate how the flashcards work. So what we need to do is go to our slideshow tab and select from beginning. So this will launch us into our presentation mode. From here, we can either use the click of our mouse or the left and right directional keys to transition between the slides. As you can see, when I click the mouse, our first slide, which is the green card, that has the word Atom, will populate. But once we click on our mouse, it will collapse. And then once we click again, the next object will appear, expanding, which is the blue card, and this will display our definition. And the definition is the basic unit of a chemical element. So this would be the same as flashcards. So like if you're studying them back and forth and you could just click on them, you can also use the space button to transition between each of the slides. However, the space button will only generate further. Same thing with clicking. The way to go backwards would be to use the left directional key. Okay, so the main benefit of this feature, mm, I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and jump right into starting a new project. So before I go into that, I want to quickly demonstrate how to reuse slides from a previous presentation. The main benefit from this feature is to save significant time and effort by letting you easily find, preview, and insert slides from other presentations directly into your current one without the need to open a separate file, having to manually copy and paste items, and also to reduce potential errors. So to do this, we simply go to the Insert toolbar. Under the slide group setting, we're going to go ahead and select the New Slides icon drop-down menu. And when we go on there, if we go all the way to the bottom where it says Reuse Slides, this will launch the Reuse Slide window panel to the right side of the application. And let's go ahead and select the Browse icon located beneath the Insert Slides From to launch our Browse window. So now what I need to do is find the PowerPoint that I'm going to be inserting images from. So let's go to our Downloads folder. And it was PowerPoint to import. Okay, so once we do all those steps, we're going to see the different slides that are ready to be inserted. So to add them to our presentation, what we need to do is just click on them and it will automatically import them with the customizations that we've added. So as you can see, now that I've added them to our presentation, uh, they generate with a little star. That's an animation that is added to each one. That way they could transition. Okay, so now let's go ahead and demonstrate how we can generate the cards. So the first thing we need to do is go to our first slide. And what we're going to do is change it to a blank tile. So let's go ahead and go to the home and blank. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be using the shapes icon to generate our flashcards. So if we go to the Insert tab under the illustrations group setting, we could use the shapes icon, and we're going to use this, the shapes icon, which is the blue square with the black circle in front. So we click on the small drop-down arrow, the menu will appear with various shape selections available. So the main shape that we're going to be working with is the rectangle shape. So once we select the rectangle shape, our mouse icon will change into a small black plus sign. This means we are ready to start generating our shape. So to do this, we need to just click on one corner of our slide and drag it across diagonally until we have generated our rectangle shape. We're going to be needing two shapes because if you recall during the initial demonstration, we had two shapes per slide, the front and the back side. So let's quickly duplicate our shape. So to do this, what we can do is click on our shape, hold the control button. Once we do that, you can see that our key icon will change to a little plus sign with a little square next to it. This means our shape is ready to be duplicated. So now all we need to do is drag our shape to the side. And now our shape is duplicated. Okay, so now that we have our two objects, we can begin entering our text into the first shape. So to do this, we simply double click at the center of the shape. And once you see the I-beam icon appear, we can begin typing. So for this shape, I'm going to enter the word organism. And then now that we've entered our text, the font does not match what our other cards are. So let's go ahead and highlight our text. We can also do shift and the left arrow will also drag it across to highlight it. And you'll see the gray outer box. That means it's ready to add the customizations that we need. So let's go ahead and go to our home. And for our font, it was Arial Black. Okay. So now let's go ahead and enter our definition into our second shape, which was a living thing that has an organized structure. Okay. And it did not change our font. So let's do that again. Arial Black. Okay. So now that we successfully generate what will be the front and back side of our flashcard, what we need to do now is change the background color of one of our shapes. So since I stated that we wanted our question cards to be green, let's go ahead and adjust our first card's color. So what we're going to do is change the color of the shape. So we're going to go ahead and select the object. And then we're going to go to the shape format tab under the ribbon toolbar. And if we go under the shape fill icon, under the shape styles, we have the different types of colors to choose from. So as I mentioned earlier, our front color is green. So let's go ahead and select the green color. And now let's go ahead and quickly add an animation to our shape. So while we have our green card selected, we can go to the animation tab. As you can see, there are different animation styles available. And if we click on the drop-down arrow under animations, we can see that there's even more animation effects listed. However, if we were to quickly scroll through them, we don't have the animation I'm looking for because the one I'm looking for is more advanced. So I'm looking for the collapse animation as an exit effect. So what we're going to do is go to more exit effects and you'll see that there's a lot more selections to choose from. So from here, what I'm going to do is look for change effect window. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So once we do that, we have the change effect window launched. Let's go ahead and scroll to our moderate section. And I'm going to use the collapse because we want our object to collapse itself and then the next object will expand once we click on it. So once that's ready to go, if you see preview effect, it'll have the different types of effects demonstrated, but like I said, we want collapse. And then we hit OK. That's going to add a 1 with the red. That means that this shape has one animation. Okay, so before we add Before we add animation. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add our entrance animation for our answer card. So the same action as before. So we're gonna go ahead and click on there, go there. For this one, because this is our entrance effect, we're gonna go under more entrance effect. And the one we're looking for is for expand. So that one's gonna be under subtle, hit expand, and that's what we want. So, okay. And you can see that number 2 is now popping up. That means that's our second animation for this slide. So now that we've added our animations to our objects, our next step is now to enlarge our shapes. So let's start by first enlarging our shape number 2, which is our answer key, because we want this to be the backside of the card. So what we can do is just click it to there. I'm gonna go ahead and move this one outside. That way I have able to find it early next. And what we're gonna do is use the buttons to stretch it out to the side of the slide. Okay. And now that we've enlarged our shape, our question card's a little hard to find, but what we can do is send this shape backwards. But before I do that, let's go ahead and adjust our font size so that it's bigger. So let's make it about that size, since our answer keys are around that size. Okay, so now that we've adjusted our font, let's go ahead and send it backwards. So if we click on shape format, under the arrange group setting, we have various icons available, but the one we're going to use is send backwards. So we're going to put send to back. And now that we did that, we can see that our green slide is popping up. And now we also want to do the same thing to this one. So we're going to go ahead and enlarge it as well. And now that it's overlapped, we can adjust our font again to make it big. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so now that we've added our animations to this, let me quickly demonstrate what that looks like. So let's go ahead and launch into our presentation mode. I'm sorry. Why is it doing that? Oh my God. Okay, so as you can see, it followed the same structure as before. And now once you've generated that, the next thing you need to do is simply duplicate our slide. So to do this, we're gonna select our slide and enter Control D. And as you can see, a new slide will generate. And you can duplicate as many slides as you're going to need. And the next thing you need to do that after that is just start changing the words and definitions. So let's say I want to change this one. I'm gonna decrease my size that I'm working with. That way I have more space to work in our slide. And then I can change this definition. Let's go ahead and change our word first. And so this word will be compound. And then for the definition, we're gonna put a pure substance formed when two or more different chemical elements are bonded together. So you can see that because the definition is a little bit bigger, it does get a little more convoluted on the space. So what we can do is decrease it a little bit just so that it looks more aesthetically appealing. And then put this one over it again. And now we can preview this one as well. So let's go from current slide and I'm sorry, went too fast. And there it is. So that would basically be it. So that our concludes all the presentation for today. Thank you for listening. And now let's see if we have time for question and answers.
Thank you, Veronica. That was a very informative presentation. Went through quite a lot during that time period. I'm going to put the post-event survey in the chat. So if anybody has a moment to fill that out, we appreciate your feedback. At the moment, there are no questions in the Q&A. I was able to answer a few of them during the session. If anybody has a question, though, now would be the time to post it in the Q&A or the chat. Give you a moment in case your fingers are quickly zooming across the keyboard. All right. Well, in the absence of questions, I will say that if you do have a question, you can absolutely respond to the follow-up email, which I will send out in the next day or two, and that will have a video link to this session, as well as links to other programs and our future Microsoft Office workshop sessions. Thank you once again, Veronica, for your presentation, and thank you all out there for being with us today, and we will see you next time.